Tēnā koe, e whai wā ki te kōrero kia mātou. Thanks for your time today. I've got to admit, when I first heard about ultramarathon running, I thought of Forrest Gump running across the continents. And then I watched some of your videos and it's more like our early intrepid explorers because you're navigating some parts of the world that look very untouched. Does it feel as though you're discovering parts of the world when you're out on those treks?
Kia ora. Discovering parts of the world.
Going up the riverbeds and through the bushes.
It does at times. It's crazy what the sort of thoughts that go through your head.
What exactly is ultramarathon running?
It's what people that are too slow to marathon run do, I think, as you get older. Generally we get slower, so you just go for further distances. So it's anything over a marathon as an ultramarathon.
Because it's not always running. Sometimes you're walking, crawling.
Yeah, it's running if you're fit enough, but if you're like us, no, there's walking, there's climbing, especially in the multi-day events. They typically, on purpose, will put you in some environment or some course where you can't run, especially if you've got a pack on your back and things like that.
Yeah, talk us through that, because in your videos you've got little squeezy bottles and you've got a pack, light because you're doing so long. How long is the marathon and what do you need to get through it?
Yeah, so typically what I'm doing these days is a self-supported ultramarathon. So most of them run 5 to 6 days with a rest day in there. And you will run roughly a marathon a day equivalent and then have a long stage which will be like 80 Ks or more, where you just go sometimes through the night. Some people will be running in the next day, some of us will finish early. But you have to carry everything you need for those 6 or 7 days on your back. So you'll start with about a 10 kilogram pack on the first day. They obviously provide you with water and somewhere to sleep, but you have to carry all your own food, your clothing, your sleeping bags, everything. So that's why you sort of look like at the start you're just sort of hobbling along like a turtle, and you get slowly a bit quicker as you eat your way through your pack.
Yeah. And do you run with others? There seems to be a team that you travel around or turn up to marathons that you know, but is it a solo journey?
Yeah, so most people do it solo. There are a few teams, but it's pretty much a solo journey. Small, I guess, international community at times. Like you will always show up to an event and you'll run into somebody that you know, or that a mate of yours knows, or that you've run with before, which is quite nice. But I tend to run by myself during these events just because my pace is so horrible for other people.
Is it lonely out there?
No, I enjoy it. I quite often because of my job being quite stressful, I like to switch off, and I think about things, and you think about things in your life and about other things you can improve at work. And, I spend a lot of time thinking about my dad at times because we were, he used to come along to my events and stuff like that. So I guess you do. It's not lonely for me. No, I enjoy it.
You mentioned your dad, Tiki Tūterangi Raumati. He's a well-known rangatira Māori who passed away in recent years. He's also an archdeacon, and you would have grown up in the Anglican Church and following your dad around little towns and on his missions. What part of your childhood did it prepare you for the ultramarathon running? What kind of disciplines did you learn?
Well, I guess because Dad moved around so much, we were in boarding schools. I had good times and bad times in boarding school, and sort of got into running a bit there just to deal with that. And then Dad unfortunately wasn't around a lot of the times because of his work. And when I sort of started getting back into running in my 30s, he really liked to come along. So he'd come along to these 100k races and things that he would have loved to do when he was younger. And he was my support crew. He was a useless support crew, but he was the support crew, He'd show up to races and just help himself to food off the aid station tables and just make a nuisance of himself. But people loved having him around. And that was our thing, and how we sort of reconnected in older ages, I'd enter these events and he'd come along and be the support crew. So
he's a bit of a character, your dad was.
He was a bit of a character, yeah. He'd show up to was at Tarawera one year. His health wasn't that good, so I'd arranged some transport for him to get to the couple of aid stations. I said, look, we'll do this. And he showed up at the first one. I was like, how did you get here? And he just introduced me to these young Māori girls and said, oh, these cousins of ours. And he literally just made them drive him from one aid station to the other.
This is mid-race?
It's mid-race. So he showed up virtually every aid station, and he just made these two young Māori girls that he'd met for the first time that day drive him from aid station to aid station. But that's how he was, you know. Always had like the gift of the gab.
Pulling in for a rest, and he's come meet your cousins.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Come over here, like, you know, oh, I'm supposed to be running, Dad. No, come over here, meet your cousins, while he's eating some food from where he's got God knows. But
someone else's energy bars.
Yeah, all the stuff that he's not allowed to have at home because of his heart disease and things back in the day, you know. He uses an excuse to sneak out and get some food.
What a beautiful opportunity to reconnect for the two of you.
Yeah, it was great. Like, he was my bad support crew for years.
Yeah. When I look at some of your videos, you've been to some of the most extreme places in the world. Talk us through, you know, where have you run?
Yeah, like, I guess I never got to travel when I was younger because we could never afford to, and I've been making the most of it since, you know. But we've been Jordan, Namibia, Atacama, Antarctica.
Wow.
Namibia a couple of times, Finland, Sweden, Mongolia, Peru. Yeah, quite a few places now.
And such different climates.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for the different climate?
Really badly in New Zealand. I was preparing for an ice ultra in Finland here in the New Zealand summer. So I had snowshoes on and was running in the sand out at Middleway. Oh. And people were just looking at you going, you know, who's this guy? Somebody actually came up to me and asked if they were special sand running shoes. It's like, nah, bro. So yeah, you prepare badly for the climates. I mean, you can't prepare for like the Amazon rainforest in Peru and stuff in New Zealand. But
for people who haven't seen your videos, and I'm sure we'll put a link up so people can find them, but it is quite something when you're taking off in the desert and there's nothing ahead of you and off you go running for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, Namibia was like that. I mean, Namib's the oldest desert in the world, and you just get off and you start running. Heat would be up to 57 degrees, and like you say, there's nothing in front of you. It's just like sand. And it's like you're just cooking. Dunes. Sand and dunes, and you're cooking in the sun. It's just like, that's probably one of the hardest sort of things, those sort of races, because you try to, like I say, I zone out and think about stuff at other times, but when you're suffering that much, it's a little bit hard to zone out, I guess. Yeah,
it looked pretty, you know, watching the video of you literally crawling up sand dunes after hours of running in that 50-degree heat. How do you keep going?
You mean when I was powering up the sand dunes?
Powering up?
Yeah.
And your crawling stuff?
My crawling stuff. I just keep going because it's what I like doing, I guess. And to a certain extent, your mind gets hardened to it over years. Like, I've been doing these for 10 years now. And I think your first ultramarathon is always your hardest. But after a while, your mind figures out, like, hey, he can do it. And he just tells your body to shut up when it's complaining about things.
Wow.
I mean, there's always stuff that can go wrong, but, you know, I think now it's just that sort of, I mean, I hate to say mental toughness, but it's just sort of that, I think it's more mental awareness that you can do something, your body can do more than what you think it can do. And that's why I just keep going. And when you're running for a cause and stuff, then you've got an extra reason just to keep going as well.
Do you think we're born with more willpower than one against the other? I mean, clearly you. Do you think it's something that you're born with, or do you think it's, as you say, just you know, learning to have mental toughness?
I think to a certain degree, maybe there's some people that are born, you know, like sort of more mentally tough than others, but I do believe there's a great learning curve in it. Like, a lot of people never challenge themselves or never have the opportunity to challenge themselves to become aware of what they're capable of. You look at anything like militaries around the world, half the ones of like sort of those tier one and sort of elite things is they basically force people to push themselves to their perceived limit and push them past, so they realise actually how much their body's capable of. And I think your average person, just because of what they do and lifestyle these days, never does that. They never realise until they do something like this that, hey, it is doable. And you can actually probably go even harder or even further if you just reset your, I guess, your mindset or your perceived limit of what you can achieve.
Yeah, you are a person with pretty lofty goals though. You do jiu-jitsu,
Yep.
You work in ED as a doctor, you've done military training, so those are all high-end kind of, you know, you have to have discipline, you have to be clear-minded, or do you think they all fit together?
A little bit. I've always been someone like, I want to see what my limit is. I'd actually be the most happy if I did an event at some stage and completely fell apart and didn't finish. That would make me happy. I want to see where, before I get too much older, where your limits are. Ultramarathon running gets close at times, but I still haven't sort of failed yet, touch wood.
What about being a doctor in an emergency department? You work at Auckland Hospital.
Yeah.
Do you get pushed to your limits there?
Yeah, different sort of limit, which is probably why I like to do sports and that in my spare time. But your mental side and I suppose your compassion or your tolerance side at times as well gets pushed to its limit. I've tried other specialties and ended up in emergency, and I think emergency sort of selects for people that can deal with certain things. But there are days where you finish your emergency job and you just don't want to go back, so it does push you to that.
They say, sometimes on the marae they say, you know, we'd go to war with that person because they're a clear leader, a rangatira. I guess people would say the same about you, you know, when it comes to fight or flight, you're definitely hanging around for the fight. Where do you think that came from?
I don't know, it's hard to tell. Probably from the way I was raised, I guess, and there might be, I don't know, it might be a genetic component to it with the way our family is, but we've always been, like I've always been subject to you know, good things and bad things throughout your life. And I guess the way that I deal with it is rather than with conflict, if it happens, like you say, rather than run away from it, I find the best way to deal with things is to tackle them head on. And that sort of transferred from my younger years to, I guess, your older years and dealing with whatever sort of bad things pop up in health and emergency.
Yeah.
You know, rather than ignore things or to let things slide, I just find it's better just to, you know, well, yeah, call them out and embrace, you know, and take them head on.
Tell us about your whānau no Taranaki koe,
Yeah.
or iwi. How many siblings? Where did you grow up? Your mum and dad?
Yeah, so we, because Dad was obviously in the Anglican Maori mission, we moved around a lot. So when people ask me where did I grow up, it's like, when I was 18, I lived in 13 different towns, you know.
Wow.
So we always say that we come from Taranaki because that's home, and that's where our, you know, our whenua is. So that's what I always tell people. I've got an older brother who's a judge, and I've got an older sister who's, what do you call her, a performer, an artist, I guess. To be fair, she's very successful, it's just it was never anything that interested me growing up. But she performs over in Germany and you know, in Disney productions and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty high achievers in your family. What do you think, you know, do you think that came from your parents and the goals they set for you?
Definitely. Mum drove a lot of things. She sort of drove us to, like, you know, educate and to try to participate in other activities. And then we sort of think about, like, Dad, I guess, provided some of the genetic aspect. We always say, like, we split his attributes into three. Like, my sister got all his ability to sing and the rest of it, and my brother, I guess, got his orator skills and his negotiating. And then they used to just laugh and just say, I got his, like, his anger management issues at times on his other side. Because he did have a temper at times if things were, like, you know, if there was something he was passionate about.
He didn't tolerate rubbish.
No, he didn't. Like he suffered no fools, and he'd call them out and be quite very clear spoken and not afraid to call people for what they were or what they were doing. And I think I got more of his bluntness at times, which has worked well and probably hindered some of my career at times. But
what is the challenge for this year?
So this year I'm trying to run a self-supported ultramarathon, one on each continent, in a calendar year. And if I manage to complete that, I should be the first in the world to do it. We just made it 8 races because 8's a luckier number, and we thought that New Zealand's its own continent now, according to some people. So that's the goal running for the year.
Yeah. So you do jiu-jitsu, you're an ED doctor, you're an ultramarathon runner, and you've also started an organisation, Kia Mau, Kia Ora. What is the purpose of that? What's behind it?
Well, I think the main purpose behind it was I look back at my life and some of the bad advice I got as a kid, mainly from schools that basically wrote you off, saying, my exit interview with my headmaster was pretty much, don't end up in jail. You didn't realise until later on in your life that you could have applied for things or you could have done things, because no one in that sort of system sort of believed in you. I was lucky enough growing up that obviously I had a very supportive family. So at least I had that home environment that would, lift you up and sort of drive you to achieve. But a lot of kids don't have that. And if they don't have that supportive home environment or that supportive schooling environment, then they never reach their full potential or never have the opportunity to reach their full potential. So the whole idea from the scholarship was to take what I've learnt through my life and what I've found that ultramarathon running has actually taught me about your perceived limits and how you actually can achieve more than your mind or your body thinks, and actually broadens your horizons a lot, and taking that to school-age children. So in the old days, I guess they would have been 6th and 7th formers. I think the year 12 and 13 is the modern term, is it? Yeah, and taking young children, young kids, or young adults, I guess is a better term, and giving them the opportunity to do an ultramarathon and to learn a lot more about themselves. And we're not just going to chuck them in the deep end, we'll mentor them as well, and just show them that there's somebody that's actually prepared to put some time into them and sort of make it a year-long journey that'll sort of end with this sort of big event that could be life-changing hopefully for them. We're sort of aiming for teenagers that are not like the high achievers. We don't want to, there's people that will already achieve in life regardless of what happens at school. And then there's others that are going to struggle unless somebody puts some effort into them. And those are the ones that we're looking for. And we're just going to hopefully try to get them to learn more about themselves and learn that they can actually achieve a lot more than what they've been told.
What a beautiful concept. How do people apply? How will you get them? When will this happen?
Well, that's the thing. So we're aiming, this year is all about building awareness and the scholarship. And then next year we'll start looking, we've had a few schools that are already interested, which is good. And we'll start sort of aiming to recruit, probably next year, and then get them into their first race the following year.
Tell me about some of the races that are coming up and what you need to do to prepare and what you're expecting the race to be.
Well, I've got one in Romania, which I'm expecting a lot of hill running and, a bit longer, 270 Ks.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad.
What are the highlights of this race? You said hilly?
Hilly, and the fact that it's a small race and quite a family run event, so that's quite a big draw card for it. And my partner Vicky's coming along as well as a volunteer, so looking forward to that. I'll just have to tell her she can't sneak me any snacks or anything like that. And then the Grand to Grand in the States, which I'm really looking forward to. That'll be quite a mix because you're literally starting around the one lip of the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
There's quite a lot of elevation and then quite a lot of descent, and the weather changes with that, so you can be quite cold when you're up high, and then in the bottom you can be very hot. And it's got quite a high dropout rate, attrition rate, so you never know. Might get my wish and not manage to finish one or something. Or
It's crazy that you're always looking for the failure.
well, yeah, just
you're
looking.
such a high achiever.
Yeah.
When you're running, what are the rules? What are you allowed in your backpack?
There's stuff that you have to have, so they always have a compulsory list of gear, and then extra stuff is just literally you can take whatever you want, but you've got to carry it. So weight's a huge factor. I try to keep my pack to like 10 kilograms or under, and then that dictates what I can take as extra stuff. So I usually travel really light on any extra things, one pair of shorts, one shirt, just, 2 pairs of socks type stuff, and then just fill out everything else with food. And whatever mix of food I think I can stomach.
Are you sleeping on the race?
There's a set distance every day. So you wake up, everybody starts at the same time each day, and then there's a set distance to run. So typically I'm quick enough that I don't sleep on the course on the long days. I sleep in camp all the time. So I'm lucky from that side of it, I guess. And
I've seen some of those photos. You're actually elevated in the air from trees and things like that, with quite high-tech sleeping bags and tents and things, but it looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, Peru was great. It was different because you had to sleep in a hammock, because I guess of all the critters and stuff on the ground and the weather, so...
I was thinking anaconda, but...
No, one girl did hop out one morning and tip her shoe up and a snake came out, and it was poisonous, so...
Always good to... You learnt that back
in
the day on the farm in the gumboot?
Yeah, pretty early on I learnt tip your shoes out from a distance, or get somebody else to check your shoes.
Is the goal to win? Is there prize money, or is it just mana?
Yeah, I suppose it's for mana. There's no prize money in any of these things. I compete against myself. So where I come in the grand scheme of the finishing of the race doesn't mean a lot to me. Although if there's somebody I really want to beat, I'll get competitive. But the goal was always to finish, and to finish, I suppose, to be happy enough with my performance that I feel satisfied that I've done enough for the race. So even though I've got a lot of races close together, and I guess a smarter person would take it easy, I tend to push myself as much as I can each race, just because I want to feel happy at the end that I've done enough.
Are there any competitors you want to beat in the next couple of races coming up? Is there?
Not in the next couple, but usually you'll meet somebody.
Who do you put your target on? Is there someone?
No, I won't say who these people are, because it's other people will know who they are, but sometimes you'll just meet somebody at a race, and for whatever reason their attitude towards you or other people will just rub you the wrong way. And then it's just yeah, I just really want to beat that person. They're just a little bit arrogant or a little bit cocky, or I'm always of the line that everybody's there, you hope for the right reasons, and you be respectful of people, and you definitely be respectful to the volunteers. So there is that new generation of some people that do things for media, I guess, for their training or their social media and stuff like that. And I can't stand anybody that's rude to a volunteer, so there's a target will go on them automatically.
When you go around the world, often in your videos I can see that you are entertained, hosted, fed by iwi taketake, the indigenous people of the lands and the communities that you're going with. So as a tangata whenua of Aotearoa, how is that connection each time you are hosted?
It's quite beautiful, really, and I don't think some competitors from other countries really appreciate what's going on. We just got back from Mongolia, and I found the people there lovely, and they actually reminded me of Maori quite a lot. You'd be running past these gers, and there'd be families that don't have a lot, but on one stage, one of the men sent out his son, came running across with some cheese, just some local made cheese for me to eat, because they saw you running and just thought, this person needs something. I didn't have the heart to tell them I'm lactose intolerant, and you can't anyhow, so I just ate it. you know, because that's what you
the
do.
concept of koha.
Yeah, you don't turn it down. Whereas some of the other competitors at stuff would say no, would do things, you know. But you know, it means a lot to me when those sort of interactions are what I enjoy. And the Mongolian people are just beautiful people, very hospitable people.
You and your partner have begun your real journey, having a father who was actually a fluent native speaker of te reo. How's that going?
Yeah, pluses and goods and bad. It goes really well when we get the chance and we get into it, and then I suppose like a lot of people, you have those false starts and then you have to sort of kick off your journey again. Yeah, it was a bit. It would have been nice, you know, in hindsight, like everything, if you know, could have started when you were a child, and it just wasn't available, and it wasn't available at school, and now you just got to, you know, make time in your busy schedule to do it. So I'm enjoying it, and it's good that this time around we've started with my partner so that we can practice.
Yeah.
You know,
what's the ultimate goal in terms of your real journey? Where would you? I mean, you're a competitive person. You've got discipline. You know how to get to the top. What's the goal there?
Ooh, that's a tough question actually. I'd like to think that someday, like I'd get past the basic conversational level. I think now, funny enough, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to probably get more time available to do it. I'm just finding learning with my old brain a little bit harder, I guess.
And what's the ultimate goal in terms of your ultramarathon running?
Yes. Well, I've got this goal this year to finish a race on each continent within a year. I'd like to say that would probably be the end of it in terms of big goals, but I guess even as I get older, I'm probably still going to try to find something else. Maybe longer runs or more difficult runs, or I don't think I'll ever finish or ever stop sort of running.
Well, all the best for your next couple of ultra marathons, and
thank you.
The hilly one, and then the long one, the canyon one, and all of them. Yeah, all the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Ka pai.